It's rare for a movie to be nominated for 9 Academy Awards. It's even more rare for a movie to win Best Screenplay in a screenplay that's written by its 2 leading actors. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck accomplished this in the 1997 critically acclaimed movie Good Will Hunting. An academic journal article written by Lawrence Zwax goes into the story of how Good Will Hunting was written. Matt Damon actually wrote Good Will Hunting while he was a student at Harvard. Crazy. It really is. It's a rags to riches story. It's a rags to riches story, and it has a theme of reaching places that you never thought you'd be able to reach. And there are 3 reoccurring themes in this movie, and we'll explore them. Social class conflicts is a major one. Pride is another major theme, and the value of love and relationships. So we're going to explore those today. Give a brief summary. Here we go. We're going to start with the social class, but first, just so y'all get an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm spitting names at you, here's a little table of the cast and characters. So Will Hunting, the main character in the movie, is played by Matt Damon. Sean McGuire, who is the counselor in the movie, is played by Robin Williams. Will Hunting's best friend Chucky is played by Ben Affleck, who also helped write the film. Skyler is played by Minnie Driver, and Professor Lambeau is played by Stellan Skarsgård. Here we go. We're going to talk about social class conflicts. Will Hunting in the film, he grew up in a poor neighborhood in the Boston area, and he grew up with a lot of tension. He had very hard feelings toward the rich. He worked blue-collar jobs. In fact, when the movie begins, he was working as a janitor at MIT. He has a criminal history. The film talks about how he's been to jail multiple times, and just recently got arrested for assault to a police officer. So he was bailed out at the time by Professor Lambeau because when he was working as a janitor at MIT, this professor wrote an equation on the board that none of his students could crack, except for Will Hunting. He had an incredible gift for math and just had a photographic memory that was astounding. So Professor Lambeau bailed him out and on the condition that Will Hunting would meet with him once a week to talk about math and get his brain going. Will Hunting eventually met a girl named Skyler, who quickly fell in love with him. He had a very hard shell. She was a student at Harvard. She came from England, from a very wealthy family, and he kind of resented her for that. He resented her for the wealth she had, and lashed out at her on multiple occasions. There's another theme in the film. It's called pride. Will was very filled with pride. He grew up in a tough neighborhood. Like I said, not a whole lot was expected from them. Professor Lambeau, as part of the agreement where Will was let out of jail, was to meet with a counselor once a week. So Professor Lambeau set him up with Sean McGuire, played by Robin Williams. He also grew up in the same neighborhood as Will, but he kind of broke through the low expectations that were expected of people from that neighborhood. Sean McGuire ended up going to MIT. He was a student with Professor Lambeau. He gave up a career in mathematics to be a community college teacher, do some counseling on the side, and just really wanted to take Will under his wing, because he knew about what that pride was like, and he knew about the pride in your neighborhood, and he knew about having a tough skin like Will had. It was very hard for Will to go through counseling. He had a lot of anger management that kind of started when he was a child. He was abused by his adoptive parents. He was a foster kid. And Sean McGuire was really able to break through that pride, mainly because he was from the same area. There's actually an academic article about counselor education, and it really goes in depth into the relationship between Sean and Will. Let's see, there's another journal article reflecting on the film, and there's an encounter with Will Hunting and his best friend Chucky They're working. It's towards the end of the movie. They're working on a construction site, and Chucky just kind of sits Will down, and he's like, "Hey, man, you have a winning lottery ticket, and you're not cashing it in." None of Will's friends had the insane gift that Will had to be able to think, to be able to solve problems, and they wanted that, and they wanted that for Will. They knew Will had this gift, and they would kind of take it like a slap to the face if he didn't end up using it for good, and he just works as a construction worker his whole life. The main theme in this film is the value of love and relationships. My favorite part of the movie was Will and Sean were in a counseling session, and Sean was telling Will about the time he met his wife. He goes into the story, and he starts by saying, "Oh, like this Red Sox game was one of the best Red Sox games in history, and I had tickets, and I was at a bar before the game, and then this beautiful girl walks in." And then they start talking about the game and how cool it was. And Will just asks, like, how was the game? Was it awesome to be there? And Sean says, "I wasn't there. I was talking to a girl." And Will was like, "Well, you missed the best game of all time. That's crazy." But I think Will didn't show it at the time. He acted like Sean was extremely dumb for missing that game. But that's an idea that stuck with Will. He never had a relationship like that. He didn't know what it was like to love somebody that fiercely. So Sean eventually got through to him. The movie ends actually with Will leaving a note at Sean's door saying, "Hey, I'm going to go see about a girl." So in summary, this movie, it really is a rags to riches story, and it really tells the story about how we all have our gifts and not to let them go to waste. There's things that we can all do to make the world a better place. There's hard parts of our life that we can open up to, and we just need to be open to that. So thank you all for listening. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Jacob.